And I'm going to speak about the art of sustainable fashion at China's Qing Imperial Court. So if you don't know much about history, the Qing dynasty started in the year of 1644 and ends in the year 1911. So over 260 years. And don't feel bad if you don't know anything about the Qing court history. And if you want to see those stunning objects, and you can go to our gallery 1 and 2, as well as 3, 4, and 5. So we have 5 galleries devoted to treasures from the Imperial Court, mainly from the Forbidden City, currently called the Palace Museum. So you might think, oh, well, all these emperors and empresses, they must enjoy unlimited resources when it comes to fashion, right? Whatever you want, you have at your fingertips. That's not true. Okay, a little bit of history. We have 10 emperors starting from the year 1644, and we have over 20 empresses living inside the Forbidden City. So this is a very big family, extended family living there. One of the things that's very important for you to understand when it comes to the rulership of the Qing dynasty, because Chinese emperor is called the son of heaven. So heaven is very important. So the idea is also to emphasize not just the validity of his rule from somewhere, heaven, very much like the Egyptian pharaoh, right? The divine kingships, that's the ideal. Actually, it's quite common across many regimes throughout human history. So it's very important for Chinese emperors to do things seasonally, to eat things seasonally, and to dress seasonally. So, well, I'll give you an archival document here. I don't expect everybody to read these. These are basic records for the Imperial Court to document what the emperor would wear nearly every hour, every day. So this would be equivalent of August, hot summer. In Beijing. I lived there for 8 years. I know it can reach 40 degrees, much hotter than Hong Kong. So you notice those smiley faces? So basically, we track the record and notice that the emperor changed dresses 7 times, much more often than a fashionable French lady. And but if you look at the material, the fabric, which was made into his robes and coats, these are all gauze because it's breathable. It's all silk, the finest silk, but it's gauze. It's really hot. And he has changed several times. So very importantly, in the court, they dress seasonally, meaning that they have only summer, and they only have summer and winter sort of the uniforms. These are not fashion statement. These are uniforms. So this is a robe you can actually study, very similar robe in our Gallery 6, which features the Chris Hall collection of Chinese textile, which is a promised donation to the Hong Kong Palace Museum, making us the home of one of the most important and comprehensive textile and fashion collection, basically Chinese textile and fashion collection around the world. So this is a very similar robe that the emperor would have worn on a hot summer day. And then wintertime, so the robe will be padded and then with fur trimmed. And this is a very expensive fur called a sable. And the ladies also dress seasonally and decorate themselves seasonally. So you see a beautiful Empress Dowager. She's the mother of the emperor. She was in the spring garden, basically signified by the peonies here. So she decorated herself with seasonal flowers, maybe or flowers, sort of floral decoration inspired by the fresh flowers. But you see her dress and her hairdress and the real flowers, they match. And then when it comes to the autumn, they would wear chrysanthemum because that's the autumn flower and also means longevity. Well, for guys, how do you decorate yourself? So this is a very sustainable material called artemisia. So it's a Chinese herb. And we still, in Hong Kong, we gather them and make into cake, a sweet cake, during the Chinese Dragon Boat Festival. So this is a herb, it's a medicinal herb that can potentially ward off all the mosquitoes and the poisonous insects, and also good for your body. So Emperor Kangxi would decorate his hat like that, and I put used to be Prince Charles, now it's King Charles. Same idea, right? Same idea, but he's using ostrich. I don't think it's local, but I think the herb was much more fragrant and, really sustainable. There's a lot of them. Hong Kong people gather them and then, dry them and put in their flats, and still a living tradition. Now, let's look at the concept of go local. Well, for those of you who don't know much about the ancestry of Qing emperors and empresses, so these people came from the north. They're not from Hong Kong. They're from Dongbei, so they're from the northeastern part of China. Today, there are 3 provinces, and this place is very cold in wintertime, and there are a lot of trees, particularly birch trees. So even today, there are intangible cultural heritage like this. People are taking the birch tree bark and make into boats. And then what happened is that even for the empress, for her most sumptuous, for her most important, the most formal headdress, of course, she has gold and silver, she has pearls. She can use all the beautiful things to decorate it. But don't forget, she wants to preserve her heritage. So she would commission artisans to use the birch bark to make, basically it's like a paper. So cut into the feather of the birds, and then it's not so pretty, right? So she would ask artisans to actually paste a foil, gold or silver foil, to make it more beautiful. But then, that's just a reminder, we had a humble beginning from the forest in the northern part of China. So this is very important because even they came to Beijing, they came down south, but still they use many humble materials to remind themselves of the sort of the semi-nomadic heritage of the Manchu people in the north. Well, I talk about sustainability, and there's something not so sustainable. So there was a big fashion using a bird feather. It's called a kingfisher bird feather. So what are you looking at? These are not painted. These are basically kingfisher feather cut decorations. All the blue you're looking at, they are not pigmented. These are optical. So what happened? There was a vogue for kingfisher feather jewelry like this, and everybody want to have one. Even you're not an empress. There are plenty of other ladies, right? Even elite women. So there was dwindling population of kingfisher birds, basically, in the 18th and 19th century. And I think that at some point they were endangered species. So not all good practices. Now let's just look at very quickly the management and repair and recycle of the imperial costume and textiles. So if you think about the Forbidden City, of course, it's not just the home of the emperor and empresses. It's also an institution. So think about it as a museum. Everything is very meticulously managed and everything is documented. So many of the objects we borrow today from the Forbidden City came with a yellow tag. And the tag says this was submitted to the court in the year of 1761. So that was the date. And they have a place called Imperial Household Department. Basically, this department managed all these jewelry and fashion items, fabric, in a very minute, detailed manner. So here is another piece of court document. So they discovered a container. And inside the container, there's so many items, mainly ladies' jewelry. Likely, it was the objects left behind by a deceased empress. So it's all good stuff. But if you look at the yellow part, for those of you who actually understand Chinese, they meticulously document the materials, how many stones, particularly precious stones, and how many pearls, because particularly the best pearls are the most precious gem materials actually at the court for jewelry making and other decoration. They also specify the weight of all these very precious materials. So this is how the court managing all the materials. now we're looking at something with a tragic story, but also recycling and reusing story, is that this beautiful ornament actually was returned from a very tragic lady called Lady Mu. So what happened to her is in the year 1831, she was demoted 3 times within 3 months. And what happened is that when she became the lowest ranking consort, there are 8 ranks, right? So you can climb up, you can also be demoted. So she came to the bottom, become dying, and then what happened is that fancy jewelry pieces need to be returned. So that's why we're blessed, because she didn't bring with her or to the tomb or anything. So the court, the Imperial Household Department kept it. That's why we have them today. Well, also the emperor and empresses actually was also into repair. And also, swapping materials. So we have this one displayed in our gallery too. What happened is through archival documents, we knew the emperor was so meticulous about the decoration. So there are 2 pendants like that, the 2 pendants. And then he swapped the beads from these 2 pendants, and that was very detailed, in a very detailed way, documented here. He swapped the beads and then, basically decorating the 2 pendants. And also, the emperor discovered one of the pendant was actually damaged. He also ordered repair. So they don't just throw things away. They mix and match and they do fun things. Well, you're all familiar with this, Kate and Diana, and we also know that in other royal families, heirloom materials were handed down. In this case, it's the engagement ring that Kate inherited from her mother-in-law. Very similarly, we also know that at the Qing court, there is one rosary made of the most precious materials. The pearls was handed down from the senior lady on the left. Her name is Xiaozhuang, to her grandson, because she was really the mother to the grandson, because the real mother died at a young age. So the grandson is the powerful Kangxi emperor, and then Kangxi then gave the rosary from the grandmother to his wife. So we also have this kind of heirloom objects passed down to the descendants and relatives. Now I want to close with a story related to Puyi, because this is a little bit of a fashion course here. So this is a festival robe. When you look at a festival, also called a dragon robe, they don't have a standing collar. So basically it's a crew neckline. So the yellow one is right. But you see what happened? The dark red one, it actually got a collar. So nobody knew what happened to it. And it's even, you haven't studied this history or costume history, you can see it's married. So it's a later piece added to the neckline. So what happened is that we knew the fabric is the Qianlong period. However, as somebody studied imperial fashion, we knew the collar's style points to the 1920s and 1910s. Qing dynasty ended 1911, right? So my research is that shows that it's very likely that Puyi recycled his great-great-grandfather's beautiful dragon robe, because at the time he didn't have a whole lot of resources, and also thanks to his great-great-grandfather, he had so many robes made and some of them even not worn. So he probably recycled a dragon robe from his ancestors. So that ends my talk. Thank you so much for your attention.